All right, so we're going to develop film here at the UAA Photo Lab. In a separate video, I'll be showing you how to roll the film onto a reel. This is 35 millimeter black and white film. We're doing black and white developing only in this area. Very important when working with film and chemistry is not to contaminate. You don't want to contaminate fixer with stop or hypoclear. You have to do things in order, and you have to do the process in order. And then it works great for everybody. If one person contaminates it, that's okay. Nobody's going to get mad at you. You just have to you just have to remember what you're doing. You have to be present and cognizant of where your chemistry is going, because chemistry, once you spill it, it's invisible, or it dries and it can contaminate film. It can do other kinds of quote damage. So anyway, but if you do mess up, don't panic. Just tell the lab monitor, or tell me, or tell somebody who knows, who's in charge, what you did, and they'll know how to dispose of it and fix it and mix new chemistry if necessary. So that's more important. You don't want to hide the contamination. So let's see. So 35 millimeter film, this is a reel, and what you're going to do in a separate video, I'm going to show you how to roll it onto the reel in such a way that it spirals onto this reel, the film, and chemistry is able to flow freely and touch all the areas of film, and therefore develop it. But that's another video. What I want to do is kind of give a brief overview, and you might have to pan around a little bit because I'm going to point to this area, or just move it. It's fine, however you want to move the camera. So you'll need, for one roll of film, you'll need one reel, and down here there are these tanks, and this is a tank for 2 rolls, but I'm gonna just do 1 roll. So hey, this reel fits perfectly into this tank, and then here are the lids, and when you cover up, after you've rolled your film in the complete darkness, you put this lid on, and this lid is light tight. And the magical thing about this lid is you can pour liquid in and out of the top, the mouth of the lid, and it does not let light in. So you don't want to expose your film to light after you've shot it, after you've exposed it in the camera. So also down here are little caps, and there's a couple different kinds of caps. You want to find the right one that fits the right lid, and there. So when it snaps, actually that snapped, but it's still loose. The point is you're going to be agitating the tank, and you don't want chemistry spilling out onto your hands. Which reminds me, it's a good idea to wear an apron, and we have a few aprons hanging in the closet. We also have gloves, like nitrile or whatever, latex gloves. We do have eye protection, and there is a vent right here which we can turn on with a timer switch on the wall, which your lab monitor should be able to do. So that'll keep the fumes cleared out from the area. So I'm not developing film right now. This is just a demo, so I'm not wearing my PPE, and the fan would be too loud. But those are things that you want to keep in mind, is protecting your eyes and your mouth and your skin and your clothes from the chemistry, which is not deadly, but it's a little stinky, and some people might be irritated by some of the chemicals. Just use your own judgment on that. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your film, take your your objects, your 3 objects, which is the tank, the reel, the lid, and you go into the dark changing area, and you're going to roll the film on in complete darkness. There's no safe light. Safe light will expose this film. All of the films that are available today, there's no safety films that you can get anymore. So when you come back out, you're gonna have this perfectly rolled. I laugh because it takes a little time to learn how to roll in the dark. You have to, your hands have to know what to do. Anyway, that's another video. Let's go over to the wall chart. And can you zoom in on this? Can you see the chart itself? You don't really need to see me, but hopefully the zoom, yeah. So this is the main chart that we use. And to develop film, there's a couple of factors that determine development. And there's the film that you're using, the brand of film. So right now I have Kodak Tri-X Pan 400. And that is a very popular film from way back in the 50s, I think, maybe 60s. Anyway, this is a classic black and white film. It's a very forgiving film. I like it. I like the grain structure. When you enlarge it, it looks cool. Different films have different properties, and like T-Max is a Kodak film that's supposedly tighter grain. Some people don't like grain. I like grain, so I like to shoot this old school stuff. There's what they used to call magic film, T-Max 3200, which is high speed, low light film. And you can push it as far as you want. No, not really. A lot of people push it to 6400 or maybe one stop past that, but by pushing film, I mean developing it longer to get more detail out of it. But anyway, that's more advanced stuff. Let's not talk about that right now. You remember what kind of film you're shooting, whether it's Ilford, Kodak, or whatever. Then you got your developer, and we're using D76, which is a Kodak developer in the tank over there. So that's why these 2 films are in red, why these 2 lines. The third factor is temperature. Well, there's time, okay, there's temperature. All of these times, if you can see 10 minutes, 13 minutes, 10 minutes, for Kodak Tri-X, it's 9 3/4 minutes. That's at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So I think it's 30 degrees Celsius. So that's the magic time. The warmer the developer is, the faster it develops. The colder the developer is, the slower it will develop your film. So you need to have consistency when you're developing film. This is like a trial and error thing. And if you start out, this is like cooking, if you start out with this recipe, this is your baseline. If you want different effects, then you can tweak it one direction or another. But when you're learning, just stick to the formula. Like you ever hear people say, stay with the recipe. So this is your recipe. What I'm gonna do is cool my developer down to 68 degrees. Or that would be one way to do it. You could, see, this is where it gets a little tricky. You can also subtract minutes of time. For every 2 degrees over 68, you can subtract 1 minute. Can you see this? Okay, so these are kind of the 2 main things you're going to be looking at here on the wall to determine your time. Yeah, I'll talk about this more later. We're trying to keep this video kind of short. So basically what I figured out is 9 3/4 minutes for Tri-X 400 shot normally. I don't know if that means anything to you, but it means not pushed. That means not over or underexposed. If I shot it at normal N, then I did what my light meter told me to do, which is, you know, shoot the needle right in the middle. So that's a normal exposure, normal development, 9 3/4 minutes. Okay, so now we'll go over here and I'll give my camera person a minute. All right, so now you're ready to develop. I have just set my tank here so you can see it. Normally I always work in the sink like this. In the sink, I have 4 of these plastic beakers. And you can see that there's writing, there's labels on them. And I've gotten the beakers from this area over here. And I've got developer, stop, fixer, and this is hypoclear. And so your developer is right here. And this is, there's a label that says this is D76 stock. So it says needs to be diluted to working solution, which our working solution is 1:1. So it means half developer, half water. Okay, and for this size, what did we determine this was, 8 ounces?
I thought it was like 400 milliliters total. Is it 200 or 400 total?
Okay, let's say 400. So 400 milliliters total fits in here. That means 200 milliliters developer, 200 of water. Put it in this beaker, and then we have a infrared thermometer, which you can point at the developer, and right now it's telling me it's 69.6 degrees Fahrenheit, just this beaker. So if I had 69 degrees, I could, let's just pretend this is D76 1:1. What I could do is I put my warm developer in this tray and I run cold water in here, and I keep checking it until I get 68 degrees. Now that's the best way to do it. Like I said, you could also subtract a minute of development time, but for your first time, let's stick with 68 degrees. So just cool it down. You're not pouring cold water into the beaker, you're pouring it into the tray, so water runs into the tray and cools down the developer inside, okay? With the other chemicals, the temperature doesn't matter that much. This is stop bath, and what that does is it stops the developer from developing. So a developer is a base, stop is acidic, they neutralize each other, and the development stops after 9 3/4 minutes. Then you want to fix it, and what the fix does is the fix washes away the unprocessed silver in the film. So when light hits silver on your film, it chemically changes certain crystals, and when you develop it, those crystals that have been changed by light turn dark. The other ones that light didn't hit, they stay clear or whatever color crystals they are. But they have not been altered, and so when you fix it, you're washing away all those unaltered crystals. If you don't fix your film and you pull it out into the light, it's going to turn dark eventually. So fixer. And then we use a lot of water for washing the film, because after develop, stop, fix, you want to get all the chemistry out of the film, because the chemistry over time will degrade it and your film won't be archival. It'll turn purple or pink or weird colors and eventually kind of break down if you don't take those chemicals out of the film. So, so this is called hypoclear. and it's just basically a soapy substance that starts the washing process. Okay, over here we have a timer, and can you zoom? You're zoomed. This timer is how, I mean, you can use your iPhone to time things, but your hands get chemicals on them, and I don't want to touch my phone with chemical hands. So I prefer this timer, and this is the minute hand, this is the second hand. Can you see this okay? Okay. And so for 9 3/4, I set the minute hand to 10, and that right there is at 45. So there, that starts my time. And each time this second hand goes around, you can see the minute hand comes in closer until it goes down to 0. Okay, there's 1 minute, and then I might have screwed it up by messing around. Anyway, this is a timer. You ought to be able to figure that out, how it works. There's on and off switch. There's also a buzzer that's horrible sounding. If you turn the buzzer on, it'll just wakes the dead. But you're going to use a timer. There's a few timers around here. Figure it out. Okay. What else do we need to know? Okay, so now let's pretend that this is developer, and it's been cooled down to 68 degrees. So remembering my time for Tri-X, 9 3/4 minutes, I'm gonna look at this sheet right here. Now this is your recipe. And well, I talked about recipe over here, but this is a list of things in order that you need to do to develop film. And I'll kind of just read it out. Use straight from this chemical container labeled D76, mix 1:1. I already talked about that part. Develop film for the proper time, see chart on the wall. Bring solutions to the same temperature. These solutions will all be room temperature, which right now is 69 degrees, 0.6. So the really important one is developer. The other ones are going to be close enough. So step 1, developer. I'm going to pretend there's film in here, and I'm going to just go through this process with water. I do need to get the right lid, actually, because cut this part out. No, I'm kidding. It's okay. It's just yeah, I think this will work. So pretending I have film in here, and what I'm gonna do is take the lid off. This has the proper lid, so it snaps on and it's tight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my developer, and I'm gonna do this over the sink. Can you see? Maybe even zoom in if you can. I like to tilt it a little bit when I pour in, and I just pour it in. And if you don't want to, you want to go easy so it doesn't bubble over and spill every place. But I just pour it until I can see it in the top. You know, I leave a little air gap in there, and then I put the lid on, and then I always knock it twice for good luck. No, the knock is to knock air bubbles off of the film, if there are any. And then I'm gonna set my timer, and for right now it's set for 10 minutes. I'll go ahead, there's 9:45, and I'm gonna agitate. It says on here, agitate for the first 30 seconds. So I'm watching the clock, I'm watching the second hand, and I'm just agitating like this. There's different ways to agitate. This is the most common. Some people use different kinds of tanks that agitate by turning the thing. So there, I just did 30 seconds of agitation, the first 30 seconds. So that's mixing chemistry around the film. It's getting the chemicals working on the film. So film is a celluloid base, and then it has what's called an emulsion layer. And the emulsion is like a gelatin sort of thing that holds the silver crystals. Okay, I got to 30 seconds, I'm gonna agitate. This is, it says here, agitate for the first 30 seconds, and then every 30 seconds, agitate for 5 seconds. Okay, so each time the second hand comes around to 15 and 45, I'm agitating. Now, okay, so I was talking about film base. I'm gonna wait for a minute. Agitate for 5 seconds. See, this is like weirdly built into my DNA by now. It's like muscle memory. And so what you're doing is you've got those silver crystals, and you've got chemistry flowing around these reels, around the film, and each time you agitate, it's refreshing the chemistry that's working on the film. So the more you agitate, the higher contrast image you get. Agitate 5 seconds. The less you agitate, the lower contrast. So when you're beginning, I would recommend doing what the recipe says, and then as you shoot more film, you get more, you want to do things differently, try it out. Trial and error is like, the way to go with photography. So agitate. Okay, so this is, I kind of like this. I always tell my students, I like this because, it seems like a waste of time, but it's really like you get to pay attention to time for once. You're gonna stand here for 10 minutes or whatever and watch every half minute. And you can't, you probably shouldn't be looking at your phone or other things. You really kind of need to pay attention while you're doing this, so agitate. And you'll find it kind of changes your brain a little bit in a good way. So, but for this video, I'm not going to do this because I just have water in here, but let's say we fast forward to the time is almost up. I do my last agitation. It comes around. Now with developer, you just dump it down the drain. And so I'm just pouring it out. And then I get my stop bath, which, we're pretending is in this beaker, stop bath. And I pour it in, and I put the lid on, and I agitate it continuously for 1 minute. That's what it says here on step 2, stop bath. Agitate for 1 minute, save solution. So 1 minute comes around, I can pour it right back into this beaker. And then I'm gonna go to step 3, fixer, which I have already poured into this. I pour it in, and this is rapid fix, and it says 2 to 5 minutes. And so what I'm gonna do is pour the fix in, agitate for 30 seconds, and then do that same thing where 5 seconds for every half minute you agitate. And when I'm developing with this rapid fix, I go for 3 minutes, because why not split the difference between 2 and 5, 3.5. With this fixer, you don't want to go too long, because fixer actually can eventually wipe the image off of your film. If you go too long, it'll sort of just strip it off. So don't go more than 5. So after, let's say 3.5 minutes, I pour it into the back into the fixer beaker, because I'm going to save this solution. Now fixer, since it's washing silver crystals off of your film, it actually becomes a heavy metal pollutant. So you don't want to dump fixer down the drain. So that's why we dispose of fixer through the UAA hazmat people. So it's a pollutant, and you don't want heavy metals in the water system. So that's why we don't dump fixer. So after you return the fixer and the stop eventually back to these bottles. Now it says rinse. If you want to, you can pull the lid off because you've just fixed your film. So you don't have to worry about light anymore. Light is not going to do anything to your film because you fixed it. So now you rinse, and you can just kind of do a bunch of these. You know, fill and dump. It says 5-6 times, whatever. Then you're going to take the hypoclear, which is that soapy, sudsy substance, pour it in here, put the lid on, agitate continuously for 2 minutes. And this, like I said, it's just soap that's clearing out the chemistry. Then you pour it back into the beaker, and you save that hypoclear by putting it back into the jug later on. You don't have to do that right now. Now you wash. You can wash it by running water in it, like setting it in the sink and running water. Like this is one way to do it, or you can use this this thing right here, which is kind of cool, and you just put the film in there, and you turn it on, and you I'm going to shut that off so you can hear me, but you set your timer for 15 minutes, and you just let it wash all the chemistry away. You're just running water through it. Okay, and now while this is washing, you can clean up. You can dump your developer down the drain if you want, or if you haven't already. You can put your fixer back in the bottle. You can put your stop back in that bottle. You can put your hypo clear back in this bottle, and you can start getting organized. But don't put your tank away. You just rinse your tank out a couple times, and then you're gonna come over here, and this container is called Photo Flow, and what you're gonna do is pour well, let's say fast forward 15 minutes, this is done, wash is over. You take there will be film on this, remember, rinse your tank, your metal tank, put it in here, fill it up with Photo Flow, swish it around like for about, it says 30 seconds, I think. You know, I'm lazy or I'm impatient, so I do 15 seconds. It's not that big a deal. But you swish it, you dump that down the drain, and then you'll take your film. You don't want to rinse it after this point. You take your film off. Let's just get some fake film. You'll pull your film off of the reel, and it's going to be wet, and so it'll it's wet and slippery. And what I do is the old finger squeegee, and I just squeegee it off into the sink, and then I come over here to this cabinet, and you probably want to come over here. You just, because I want to see them to see inside. You open it up, and this is your wet film, and you just close pin it, and then there's a bunch of pins in the bottom and of the cabinet, and you close pin the bottom of your film. When it's wet, it'll hang nicer than this. It won't curl like that. But I'm using dry practice film. But what you want it to do is hang nice and straight. Let me put some more weight on it. So you want it to hang nice and straight, which it will do. And then the photo flow keeps water droplets from drying and making marks on your film, so that's why we use the photo flow. Then you're going to shut the cabinet, and then on the side is a switch which turns on the dryer blower. And we want this to open up to there, and there's a bunch of signs. You don't want to open this when the fan is on so it doesn't suck dust in. Yeah, don't mess with the temperature dial. That's taped kind of in place. And that's it. Then walk away and continue to clean up. And probably about 10 or 15 minutes later, it'll be dry. And you'll know it's dry when it hangs nice and straight. If there's weird bends in it, then it's still wet. Keep it going. Yeah. So when your film is dry, you take it to the light table. I always cut mine up into 5 frames of 5 for 35 millimeter, and I put them in plastic sleeves right away. The longer you leave your film out to the environment, the more dust gets attached to it, and you have to clean it off later. So just please, when you're done, put everything away nicely. Wipe up any spills, chemistry, etc. Try to keep the lab clean. And I think that's it. Any questions?